Hey, what's going on, everyone? Tyler Adolfo. Now, the question is the United States of America headed for a civil war? We've seen the question in mainstream media. We've seen this claim being stated by historians as well as so-called experts. I'm going to put forth my position based off facts, reality, data, so forth. Is the United States headed for civil war? Short answer, yes. The long answer, yes. The question is when, and how long will it be delayed? All throughout history, there are cycles of springs and falls of where there is a changing of guards in the power structures of a society and a civilization. The United States is only 244 years old. Rome lasted much longer. The civilization of Athens didn't last long at all, and the civilization of Athens was much more intelligent. They had a much more rational, educated, informed society, and there are striking similarities between Athens, Rome, and the United States of America. Now, what is it that caused Rome to fall? Was it because everybody in Rome hated each other for no reason? No. Romans respected their fellow Romans. That's completely different from what you see in the United States. They had different positions on how to deal with issues of Eastern, Visigoth, pagan, anti-God invaders who sacked Rome. And from the perspective of the Visigoths, the Goths, and these so-called barbarians, they were the true Christians in their minds. They believed that they were doing the godly thing, whereas so-called Holy Rome spent tons of resources and so much waste in militarizing the homelands of these barbarians. Now, Rome was guided by this belief that that's what the Bible commanded them to do, which is not true. I mean, it's a misinterpretation. The Bible does not say that you force your way, that you force God or force your beliefs on other people. It preaches tolerance, it preaches acceptance. Now, the leaders of Rome actually understood this, every single one of them, even the so-called craziest ones, which Hollywood will distort and fictionalize and add this element of mythology to. But the truth is they were ordinary people. A lot of them actually came from humble beginnings and rose up through the military, where they started off on the front lines serving the Roman Empire. And Rome had a very, very loyal, tough love culture where every Roman looked out for every Roman. You see some of these similarities still exist in the world today. These systems that the Holy Roman Catholic Church still employs, where they'll go door to door and unprompted deliver food, so forth. But it still has a lot of the same issues that the Holy Roman Empire did as well, which caused the Romans to turn against the Catholic Church justifiably. Whereas people today, it's the opposite issue. The issue isn't a Catholic Church issue. It's people who are not real Catholics who infiltrate the now pure church and are scapegoating Pope Francis. And if you actually look at what the Bible says, it actually says that God's true one church will be slandered. Now, what does Catholicism actually preach? Catholics don't give a damn what your religion is. They don't care if you're an atheist. They don't care if you believe or not. People live in their heads rent-free. Catholics are fearless. If you attack them, a Catholic nun would fight a barbarian to the death rather than denounce the Pope. That's how loyal Catholics are. There's no other unit structure, whether at the family level, in society, that has been as cohesive as Catholic churches, and it's because it's God's way. Now, all the Protestants will say that the Catholics wrote stories that weren't true or added books to the Bible that aren't true. Is that the case, or is it more likely that Protestants who held power erased textbooks and rewrote history? They'll have you believe that a devil worshiper named King James in the King James Bible. Now, here's the thing too. Was he really a devil worshiper, or is that also just propaganda? These are the kind of questions you have to ask. There's more context to it. There was a Church of Satan founded in the United States in the early 1900s by a man named Aleister Crowley. Now, Aleister Crowley was not... He talked about a lot of strange, bizarre things. I'm familiar with his readings. But he was more of a profiting off of the culture and fears of traumatized, ignorant Christians who believe everything. If you want to make money in America, start your own religion. You'll be a billionaire overnight. You'll actually have unlimited wealth because you'll have blind followers who will say that you're God rather than God. There's one God. There's one higher power. And it doesn't have to come through a church or a pastor. Why? Not because Tyler Adolfo says so, but because that's what every Bible says. No matter how many times they've edited, revised, removed scripts from the Holy Roman books, it's still the same message. And that's the problem is that rather than reading it literally, people interpret it. And it's only the fault of congregations that they interpret what their pastors are saying, but it's also the fault of greedy pastors who are doing so on purpose in order to raise money and capitalize off the fear of their congregations, because they wrongly believe that they are doing the right thing and that the Bible says it is okay for them to lie and take money, that people are forced to give the 10% of what they don't have to the church. The Bible does not say that. It does not say that. It's just simply false. It's simply false. It's made up. It's make-believe. But the fall of the United States has nothing to do with walking away from the church or walking away from pastor. It has to do with walking away from the laws of God, the laws of this universe. Enlightenment ideas like someone should be able to have a different opinion than me without having a bat smash him in the face. These are the same kind of questions that were asked during Renaissance Italy. And during the Renaissance era, where you had scientific innovation, mass immigration of Muslims, Christians, Jews, they were all coming together and forming civilizations, and there was not this widespread conflict between them. That's where history has been distorted. They lived in peace. They'll tell you that there has never been peace in the Middle East. That is a false statement. It's simply not accurate. There was peace in the Middle East under Muslim leadership. There was peace in the Middle East under Christian leadership. There was peace in the Middle East under Jewish leadership. It's always foreign corrupt powers who intervene and who deliberately divide exploited populations against one another for the express purpose of dividing and conquering and maintaining power. Now think about that phrase, divide and conquer. Where have you heard that before? Well, first thing is, it's in the Bible where Jesus says that's the method of the devil, to divide and conquer innocent people against one another. Because everyone truly thinks they're innocent. I'm not the bad one. I'm not the one who's responsible by, voting for a person who then murders 1 million innocent people in the Middle East. No, it's not my fault. It's only his fault. Wrong. It's not the leader's fault that 90% of the American people were so traumatized and irrational that they begged for Bush to go to war in Iraq. Bush did the best he could with the information at the time. Intelligence experts in the CIA were sounding the alarm, saying there's no evidence of weapons of mass destruction, and they were right. The narrative has now flipped, and 99% of the American people will tell you that the CIA is to blame for the wars that they launched, not Bush. It was not Obama who didn't want to take our troops home. It was the American people who elected a far-right pro-war Congress, which controls the War Powers Act, which determines whether or not the president can pull troops out of Iraq and Afghanistan. Obama wanted to remove the troops, but he was just a figurehead because he doesn't control the Senate. He doesn't control the House. However, it is his issue that he would keep the same people in his administration that Obama had, that Bush had. The same people who worked for George Bush. Obama runs on this platform that Bush lied, and he was right. Bush lied. Bush failed, Bush lied. What does Obama do? Who's been tutored by the same people who mentored Bush since he was in college? Bush was mentored by New American Century Project and Prescott Bush, founder of Operation Paperclip, which you can see on CIA.gov. It's not a conspiracy theory. Unless you're delusional, don't read and believe everything you hear on Fox News. I believe in experts, and that's the problem, is that 99% of people don't. They're so brainwashed, they're so ignorant, they're so arrogant, they're so selfish, they're so lustful for power. They care about fame. They don't care about their neighbor. They don't care about what happens in their community. It's all about them. It's all about what's in it for me. It's not about ask what you can do for your country. It's ask what you can do to help me destroy it. That's the new mentality out there. They'll blame LeBron James or Tom Brady for taking a kneel during the national anthem. They'll say that Eminem, who's went through so much trauma, is now the bad guy. No, they throw everyone under the bus. Everyone. They'll tell you they have no idea who killed Tupac, no idea who killed Biggie, even though there were hundreds of witnesses, cameras all over the place at a city nightclub, and you'll have them tell you, and you'll believe every word of it, and do nothing about it, and you just take it. You let yourself be insulted, you let them kill you, you let them send your children to die in wars. It's not the leaders who go to hell, because you let them do it to you. You let them do it to you. From a strict Orthodox Judaism, strict Orthodox Islam, strict Orthodox Christianity, all of them are saved and go to heaven. That's where the Bible says that 99.9% of people do not make it. What they mean by that is that 99.9% of people are doing exactly what every single American in this country is doing right now. America literally is a figurative representation of Babylon. Babylon had 44 kings and then a 45th queen, which signified the end of Babylon, the fall of the United States. Now, it does not mean that it has to be the destiny for that to happen. Babylon was real. That's what happened before. That's what history is. That's why you have the proverb, the adage, the wisdom, the common sense. History repeats itself, but it doesn't mean we're doomed to repeat it. So we have the lessons of Rome, we have the lessons of Athens, we have the lessons of Babylon, and yet ignorant human beings who continue to blame everyone but themselves will tell you that it's everyone's fault but their own, that it's leadership's fault that they allow leaders to do this to them, to lie to them. Every time a leader opens their mouth, they're saying a lie. But according to the eyes of God, that's not a sin, because there is no malicious intent. In order for something to be considered a lie, there has to be a malicious intent. So, did Trump collude with Russia? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But if he did so without malicious intent, it's irrelevant. In a godly court, United States court of law, he'll be found not guilty. He'll literally be found not guilty. And think about what that means for people in this country who have relatives who've had their lives destroyed, families, structures destroyed, lost entire years of their life. What the reaction to that will be from large sectors of this country. Think about what the response to that will be. People will go after Donald, and nothing will happen to him. Nothing. Because the people who go after him have no power. They don't believe in gun rights. They don't believe in self-defense rights. They believe in calling the cops, being rats, being snakes. They believe on having government do everything for them. They believe in having government get involved where they shouldn't, and having government stay out of the way in the areas that they're supposed to be involved. Government is supposed to protect life, liberty, property, and to provide means to promote the general welfare and provide the pursuit of happiness. The best way to do that is to get government out of the goddamn way, with exceptions to those areas. So when there are corrupt cops, it is the job and duty of President Joe Biden to use the Justice Department. He doesn't do so because he's a racist. And he'll go to heaven because he's a law-abiding, God-fearing Catholic. That's what the Bible... Nothing will happen to Joe Biden. People can attack the White House all they want. If people storm the White House, they'll just be gunned down by military authorities, and rightfully so. Because it's not his fault that people don't vote. It's not his fault that people allow elections to be rigged by war hawks, that they allow mainstream media to lie and put all these smears out against Donald Trump, who's been a Democrat his entire life. And you'll tell me with a straight face that this guy, who was worshipped by Hollywood, who was worshipped by everyone, all of a sudden, because he puts a Republican letter next to his name, he's the enemy. Hillary Clinton never actually criticizes him ever. They have disagreements on policy. The establishment hates him. Celebrities never actually criticize him. They criticize the people he sides with, who now turn on him. The Republican Party now has all the support in the world, and there's this illusion that it's the Trump Party. It's not. It's being hijacked and moved into the Republican corner. That is true. And that's where media is attacking all the wrong people. And the question is, are they doing it on purpose? Well, if history tells us anything, yes, they are. The question is, how do you fix it? Well, we have this thing called laws in this country. Defamation law, libel suit law. The problem is that the court systems are rigged in a fashion. It's a systemic issue that we've had since the founding of this country, where it does protect innocent people. Now, as law is written, we do have unlimited free speech. 99.9% of defamation cases get thrown in the water, as will every single defamation suit presented against CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC. They're not going anywhere until courts are reformed. But here's the other issue. How are courts going to be reformed when it requires a we the people government in order to reform the courts? The Constitution has strict ratifying procedures. You need 2/3 of the states to ratify in order to have a new amendment or to amend it. Or you need a supermajority in the Senate. And you know what they want to do now is they want to end the filibuster. The filibuster is a protectionist member that is, it's meant to protect the rights of the minority. Ending the filibuster, which Democrats want to do, and which Republican establishment wants to do, but Trump movement does not. Hillary Clinton does. But ask yourself why. Bernie Sanders wants to get rid of the filibuster. Literally the worst thing you can do. What that means is that immediately a Republican Senate, a Republican House can raise the voting age to 35 years old. They could impose requirements that say if you have a scratch on your ID card, that you lose your right to vote. And there's nothing you can do about it. And who cares? A third of Americans don't vote anyways. They sit home. They're so comfortable. They're so pacified. They don't realize freedom is free. And so the United States will still be around for another few decades. The question is, what is it going to look like? Do people want to live in this alternate reality of saying that Republican Abraham Lincoln was the one to blame for slavery when he fought to end it? That Republican General Eisenhower, who killed racist Nazis who fought for the German Hitler regime, that Republican General Eisenhower who sent in the military to protect black students from KKK Democrats who were bombing buildings and blaming it on Republicans? Are you kidding me? How stupid are American people? Seriously. You know how easy it is to get facts. We live in the age of information. All the information in the world is at your fingertips, and yet people use it to sit around and watch conspiracy theories on Netflix that say Donald Trump wants to be Hitler, when literally every policy he has is the opposite of Hitler. Every single one. Now, there's a lot of similar trends going on that happened during Nazi Germany, but it's not coming from the Republican Party. The Republican Party doesn't want to take guns away like Hitler did to the Jews and to the Polish. The Republican Party is not fanning the flames to go to World War III with communist Russia. Democrats would have you believe that Osama bin Laden attacked us on 9/11 because he hates us and is jealous that we have freedom. How ludicrous of an argument is that? That former CIA asset Osama bin Laden attacked us for no reason, and if you disagree with them, it's because you hate your country. That's what George Bush said, who they now want to bring back. But I understand why he did it, because Democrats lie like mad. Like mad. They'll say that Republican Ronald Reagan, who received a larger share of the minority vote than any candidate in recent history, including Bill Clinton, until Bill Clinton's second term, after he defeated Bob Dole. Bob Dole did better with non-white voters than any Republican, and he lost because Clinton gobbled up the majority 80% white vote. That doesn't mean Clinton is racist. He's not. Clinton is not. You can get the perception of how he is because he was tough on crime versus racist looters who deserved to be beaten. They deserved to be thrown in jail for killing innocent people of all colors. It has nothing to do with race. It's only the media who makes it about race. All the time. And they'll tell you, if you disagree with that you hate Martin Luther King. These people, they never make movies about Martin Luther King. But they'll make videos about slavery that blame Republicans for slavery. When Republicans freed the slaves. When there were tons of former freed black slaves who fought for the Confederacy, they'll tell you that they did so, that these Christian free men fought for that side because they hated themselves and were brainwashed. I'm sure it had nothing to do with Democrat agents, federal agents in the North who violated the policies of President Lincoln. Lincoln didn't want slaves to go back to the South. It was federal agents who kidnapped them and brought them back. It was called the fugitive slave trade. Very simple concept that history textbooks won't teach you about. They will. They'll skim over it. It will be a page. And then you'll go right back into your typical America sucks, screw hope, Obama was perfect, Bush was perfect, all our presidents are perfect and never make mistakes. It's only the American people's fault. That we're the greatest country ever. Be grateful, never ask for more. We have a lower life expectancy than every other Western nation in the world, despite the fact that we have more resources, more wealth, more land, more privilege. We have oceans separating us from our adversaries. We spend more on our military than the next 14 countries combined. 13 of those countries are our allies. But they will have you believe that extremely broke Russia, that China, which is isolated and has no allies, wants to go to war with us for no reason. They do want to go to war with us, and there is a reason. And the reason is Putin wants free trade. He wants to be the world superpower, but only because he believes that the United States is the single biggest hypocritical human rights violator in human history. There has never been a time in the history of this country that we have not been in a war. But you would say that Russia, which is isolated, has sanctions that has people in their streets starving. Russians who are pro-America, who are starving in their streets, who are super pro-West. They listen to hip-hop. They watch Hollywood movies. They have music artists who criticize Putin every day. Russian citizens criticize the Kremlin all the time. They never get killed. And yes, there are American journalists who have been killed in Russia. But you have to ask the question, was it Putin who did it? Or did they go there and try to organize rebellion against Vladimir Putin, the duly elected president of Russia? I'm not a Putin defender. Putin was brainwashed by communists as a child. He's traumatized. He has a set of beliefs that he believes in, but he does what he needs to do to protect his people. And I disagree with it. I think what he's doing won't protect his people, but I see why he thinks it's the only option. And he's already invaded Ukraine and seized large sectors of it. Russians have a kill list where they are gunning down people who are anti-Putin. That's what peaceful Russian men who have families are doing. They are killing men, women, and children. That's what your men, women, and children will be sent to do under Joe Biden, because people stand by and they care more about Orange Man bad, or, oh, Obama's not even really black, he's actually white, he wasn't even born here because he disagrees with me on something. Obama comes out and correctly says that the violent Black Lives Matter supporter who gunned down a Puerto Rican cop for no reason deserves to be in prison. I agree, they do. But you know what? Stop acting like you're so innocent. It's not just leaders' fault. Leaders are smarter than you. It's not the fault of Harvard-educated lawyer Obama. It's not the fault of Yale-educated George Bush. It's not the fault of Donald Trump, who was sent to military school by his abusive racist father, had nothing. Media will lie and say that he was given $200 million since birth. No. He had to get loans with high interest rates, which were extremely risky. He took a risk. He's had 4 businesses go bankrupt out of the hundreds that he has founded. 90% of Democrats who start businesses fail. I'm not pro-Trump. I don't care about the person. I'm not pro-Obama. I'm not pro-Trump. I'm not pro-Clinton. I only care about policies. I only care about policies. It has nothing to do with language or your feelings or how you feel about how it's everyone's fault but your own. Nobody cares. Cry me a river. Nobody cares. I care about the million people who were murdered in Iraq. I care about the thousands of people being gunned down in this violent country every single day for no reason, predominantly by police or by people incited to violence by our own leaders in the mainstream media who incites those leaders. If Trump or Obama or Clinton ever become any of the things that people say they are, it's only because mainstream corporation media, which cares about ratings and power only, and uses fear as a weapon, the same strategy Hitler used, that's the only scenario where this country will go to civil war. The question is, will the civil war be at the ballot box, which Malcolm X preferred, or will it be with government bullets and government drones crushing armed rebellion against this republic because people want to blame each other instead of looking in the mirror? Republicans vote. They appreciate the right to vote. Generation Z correctly doesn't vote because they know it's a waste of our time. Because the candidates who we support, we're educated, we do our research. It's called evolution. Each succeeding generation is going to be more intelligent than the next one. However, the generation before us, for the first time ever in human history, has accomplished this amazing thing. Whereas Generation Z, people aged 0 to 25, have a worse world left for them than the one before them. And it is only millennials and people of all generations before us who don't appreciate freedom, who don't appreciate the sacrifices made by their ancestors, but will now weaponize trauma and say that Generation Z white people or Generation Z black people, it doesn't matter, that they're responsible for the actions that you took? I don't think so. I know so. You're welcome to make that case. You're in an extremely tiny minority because 99.9% of people think you're nuts. But you want to say that the 99.9% are the ones who are truly crazy. Not you, precious Karen, who will scream at a 2-year-old for not wearing a mask in a store. How paranoid and scummy of a person do you have to be to call a cop on a kid playing outside with a toy gun who then gets shot by a cop? Not because the cop hates the kid, but because the Karen on the phone lied and said that he has a gun and pointed it at her son. Cops follow their training that Democrat training gives them. Democrat training. Cops don't kill people for no reason. Cops don't throw plates at people's faces. Cops don't shoot up their own family. Cops don't shoot up the schools. Angry, depressed, ungrateful, ignorant Americans do that. Ignorant Americans killed Martin Luther King. They killed Kennedy. They killed Malcolm. Ignorant people killed Gandhi. Ignorant people killed every true peacemaker who's come before you. Every single one. But the argument they'll make if they click on this video, they'll watch 30 seconds of it. They'll know that I'm talking about them alone. They'll click off of it. And what they'll say, they'll leave a lengthy essay comment that I'm not going to read because that's what the Bible says to do. Don't pray for evil people. Pray for their souls so that, heaven forbid, if they're given a chance of forgiveness, it's not up to you. It's up to God. Charleston shooting gets shot up by an extremely far-right terrorist. They go on TV and they forgive them. That's their choice because they're Christians. And they're correct in their assessment that it's not his fault that media made him think that peaceful churchgoers are a threat to the country or a threat to white people. He genuinely believed that. And he did that. And he's going to rot the rest of his life in jail. And as a result, Christ would forgive him. That's what the Bible says. You take a life, you spend your life in jail. You torture someone, you should be tortured. Everyone always agrees with this. Everyone does. But that's it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. It's only personal, nothing business. Tell me what your opinion is. Don't shoot people for disagreeing with you. This isn't 1400s Italy. This isn't the Middle East. It's actually more dangerous than the Middle East. Because at least in the Middle East, at least there's historical reasons for why they do it. Americans have no excuse for being the ungrateful demon spawns that we have become. But cry me a river that Eminem kneeled down during the national anthem. You know who else burned the American flag during times of distress? President George Washington. You know who turned the flag upside down when violent, racist Indians who attacked colonists for no reason? You know what Andrew Jackson, that's what Andrew Jackson did. Oh, but Andrew Jackson was a racist too, because he was a product of the systems of his time. He was a Democrat, by the way. And yes, he owned slaves. Democrat Andrew Jackson owned slaves. Every Democrat owned slaves. It wasn't Republicans. But there's context to why they did too. There is. That's not saying it was wrong. It's just saying that 100% of this country literally had no issue with it. Frederick Douglass came out and he said, slavery is wrong. And it's also wrong that women don't have the right to vote. Every anti-slavery man and anti-slavery woman in this country turned on Frederick Douglass and said that Frederick Douglass was a sellout to Republicans. Frederick Douglass, who escaped slavery, taught himself how to read himself, would steal books from his slave master. Inspiration, this guy would go into a church full of the most racist people, give a speech without notes, and leave them in tears, and they would be converts to the Republican Party. They'll tell you that Black Frederick Douglass, an American icon, was a sellout for believing in freedom. Because he disagreed with them on that one issue. That it's not enough to say that black men deserve freedom, but that black women deserve it as well. The audacity. How dare you want freedom and equality for all, the founding ideals of this country? How dare you, Frederick Douglass? Frederick Douglass could have literally been elected president of the country during the time frame which he lived. Because it wasn't the American people who were racist. It was the media. It was the media of the time which only covered evil and ignored everyone else. The American people loved Frederick Douglass. True Democrats sheltered him in their home when racist conservatives tried to hunt him down and kill him. It was Republicans who gave him business opportunities and platforms and brought them on the campaign trail to deliver speeches or to teach their children how to speak, because Frederick Douglass was naturally gifted. Imagine if Frederick Douglass was given the same opportunities as a poor white kid in every part of America. And what I mean by that is a public education, something he'd never had and never needed because he was a genius naturally. And he lucked out, because the probability of that happening is so extremely low. And yet there's so many stories of escaped slaves teaching themselves, because that's how it was evolutionary after the Big Bang. The caveman had to teach themselves too. When you are born into a system of oppression and you have no standard of outside comparison, that historical trauma strengthens you over time, because only the most fit generations survive. Frederick Douglass, all of the slaves of America, were actually the most intelligent, which is precisely why whenever they were given 1% of the opportunities that the white man had, they immediately had a mediocre fast rise in society. And that's literally what you see happen today all the time. And yet what does society do when Juice WRLD, he follows the same exact model that Eminem had of being honest about his traumas in his music, and Juice WRLD would tell you that Eminem was his biggest inspiration. Juice WRLD, they try to set him up. What is his crime? He has drugs and guns in his possession, allegedly. Well, forgive me if I'm wrong. Every politician in this country, at minimum, does cocaine, does illegal drugs all the time. But because they're elected and leaders, they're above the law. 100 million Americans in this country own a gun. But when black famous Juice WRLD owns a gun, it's a crime for him to do so. The Second Amendment right doesn't apply to him, not because he's black, but because he's black and successful, and because he disagrees with the establishment powers in this country on one issue: that it's okay to not accept oppression, to not be a victim, to believe in God and to pursue your dreams to the best of your ability. Juice WRLD's family is completely fine because they know their son is in heaven with God. Yet media to this day will continue to do stories profiting off the death of Juice WRLD, saying that mean Republicans planted guns or cocaine on him, or that the Illuminati killed him, when the Illuminati has been extinct since 1776, and they were murdered by Democrats, go figure. They were literally a philosophical society. I don't blame Juice WRLD for what he did. I would have overdosed too. When you're facing felony charges to face 25 years to life in prison for having the Second Amendment right to own guns that applies to everyone except for non-white people, are you kidding me? But that's the thing, is it's not about race. It truly isn't. It's actually about, where do you stand on policies? If you're someone who believes everyone deserves equality of opportunity, not equality of outcomes, that means you're an enemy. You're an enemy of the establishment and you hate America. If you believe that everyone has to be equally as depressed, equally as unhappy, equally as unsuccessful, equally as reliant on media and government for everything they know and believe, that makes you an angel and a saint, but they won't elevate you or make you famous because you're just a pawn in the game. They are the kings and queens of the alternate reality that they've constructed for this country. So, that's my response to the question: is the United States headed for civil war? Short term, yes. Long term, yes. Why? We've been in a civil war since the founding of this country. The question is, will it intensify, or will we finally elect leaders who have the courage to take action, stand by all the founding ideals this country was founded upon for once, and bring about an end to the carnage that has bled this greatest country in the world dry from its very inception? That's the question before us as we head into these next midterms for 2022 and the 2024 presidential election. Today's February 22nd, 2022, 7:51 p.m. Thank you. My name is Tyler Adolfo. God bless. Hope you all have an amazing day. Like, comment, and subscribe. We're all in this together. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence.